The idea came out of nowhere. I could see Harry very clearly.
It was a very difficult book to sell, and then quite a large number of publishers turned it down.
Is it nice to name names?
Well, of course, everybody now denies turning it down. It's like turning down the Beatles, isn't it?
This is more money than I had ever paid any author as an advance.
Nothing since has come anywhere close to the fact that I was actually going to be in print.
Oh, my God!
The books, we believe, promote the religion of witchcraft.
And it was at that point I snapped, and I wrote back and said, don't read the rest of the books.
I think I would have been clinically insane to have expected what's happened. Who could have predicted this? No one knew, and I certainly didn't.
J.K. Rowling, now on Biography.
At one time, J.K. Rowling was broke and jobless, a single mother who spent her afternoons writing in Edinburgh coffee shops while her baby slept. Today, she is rich and famous, the most popular children's author in the world.
'Cause it's witchcraft, wicked witchcraft.
The Potter books she created have all been international bestsellers, and every Harry Potter movie so far has been a blockbuster success. Her legions of fans are desperate for the next installment of the Boy Wizard's adventures. But it's J.K. Rowling's story that is the most amazing of all. Only now she has agreed to tell it in her own words.
A lot of rubbish has been written. Not necessarily malicious rubbish, but things get exaggerated and distorted, and I just thought maybe the moment has come just to say how it happened, truthfully, and then I can at least go easy to my bed and think, well, the truth's out there, and people can take it or leave it.
Harry's arrival on the doorstep of his Muggle or non-magic relatives, the Dursleys, is the start of an epic journey. Harry grows up thinking he's just an ordinary boy until he finds out that in the wizard world, his name is legendary, and he is destined to attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Then Harry's adventures really begin, as he and his classmates Hermione and Ron battle with the dark forces of magic, a story J.K. Rowling has meticulously planned to tell over 7 books, one for each school year.
Wow.
It was a journey that began back in 1990.
I was going by train from Manchester to London, sitting there thinking of nothing to do with writing, and the idea came out of nowhere. I could see Harry very clearly, this scrawny little boy, and it was the most physical rush of excitement. I'd never felt that excited about anything to do with writing. I'd never had an idea that gave me such a physical response. So I'm rummaging through this bag to try and find a pen or a pencil or anything. I didn't even have an eyeliner on me, so I just had to sit and think. And for 4 hours, because the train was delayed, I had all these ideas bubbling up through my head.
Harry was small and skinny, with brilliant green eyes and jet black hair that was always untidy. He wore round glasses, and on his forehead was a thin, lightning-shaped scar. It was this scar that made Harry so particularly unusual, even for a wizard. This scar was the only hint of Harry's very mysterious past, of the reason he had been left on the Dursleys' doorstep 11 years before.
I can't describe the excitement to someone who doesn't write books, except to say it was that incredibly elated feeling you get when you've just met someone with whom you might eventually fall in love. That that was the kind of feeling I had getting off the train, as though I'd just met someone wonderful, and we were about to embark on this wonderful affair. That kind of elation, that light-headedness and excitement. And so I got back to my flat in Clapham Junction and started writing. And I've now been writing for 10 years, so it's been a good affair. For me, King's Cross is a very, very romantic place, probably the most romantic station, purely because my parents met here. So that's always been part of my childhood folklore. My dad had just joined the Navy, my mum had just joined the Wrens. They were both travelling up to Arbroath in Scotland from London, and they met on the train pulling out of King's Cross. So I wanted Harry to go to Hogwarts by train. I just love trains, I'm a bit nerdy like that. And obviously, therefore, it had to be King's Cross.
Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me where I might find platform 9 3/4?
9 3/4? Think you're being funny, do you?
Like a lot in the Harry Potter books, it was reality with a twist. I wanted to find another entrance to the magical world, but I didn't want a kind of time warp thing. I like the entrances to be places that you can only find if you have the knowledge. So anyone who ran at the barrier with enough confidence would be able to break through onto this platform between platform 9 and platform 10.
Best do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous. Good luck.
I wrote platform 9 3/4 when I was living in Manchester, and I wrongly visualised the platforms, and I was actually thinking of Euston. So anyone who's actually been to the real platforms 9 and 10 in King's Cross will realise they don't bear a great resemblance to the platforms 9 and 10 as described in the book. So that's just me coming clean there. I was in Manchester, I couldn't check.
Coming up, J.K. Rowling revisits her humble beginnings.
I had to write on napkins because I couldn't afford paper.
And reveals the secrets of Harry Potter.
And all these little symbols mean what house they're in, how magical they are. It was 5 years from the train journey where I had the original idea to finishing the book. And during those 5 years, this mass of material was generated, some of which will never find its way into the book, will never need to be in the books. It's just stuff I need to know for my own pleasure, partly for my own pleasure and partly because I like reading a book where I have the sense that the author knows everything. They might not be telling me everything, but you have that confidence that the author really knows everything. Okay, so this is, to the untrained eye, might look like a pile of waste paper, but this is 10 years' work. As you can see, I file meticulously, and I know where every single piece of paper is. I've dragged out a few bits and pieces. So this is the name of everyone in Harry's year. And all these little symbols mean what house they're in, how magical they are, what their parentage is, because I needed this later for the Death Eaters and so on, and the various allegiances that would be set up within the school. I like this. This was 98, and this was me trying to find words for the Dementors. So I have all these Latin words written all over the inside of my diary. I used to cover just about anything with writing, as you can see. This is my application for housing benefit in 28 Gardeners Crescent, which is where the first place I lived, obviously, when I was in Edinburgh. Treated with a complete lack of respect by me. Discarded first chapters of book 1. I reckon I must have got through 15 different alternative chapters of book 1. The reasons for which I discarded each of them were they all gave too much away. And in fact, if you put all those discarded first chapters together, almost the whole plot is explained. This is an old notebook in which I worked out, and again, I don't want you to come too close on this. That is the history of the Death Eaters. Where's my Portuguese diary gone? There it is. So this is a Portuguese diary, as you can see, not filled in, because I've never filled in a diary in my life. But it had paper in it to write on, so we have another draft, book 1, chapter 1. I drew a lot of pictures. I drew them for no one but me. I just wanted to know what the characters looked like. So anyway, that was Argus Filch. No prizes. Snape, obviously. That is Harry arriving in Privet Drive with Professor McGonagall and Hagrid and Dumbledore. That was a Gringotts cart. Mirror of Erised. That's the Weasleys. Professor Sprout. I like this one. I thought I'd lost this picture, actually, because I was going to show it to Chris Columbus. And true to form, I only found it when it was no use, and they'd already filmed that bit anyway. But this is how the entrance to Diagon Alley works in my imagination. So Chris is going to murder me when he finds out I had a blueprint all along, and he was asking me how it worked. But it was buried in a box.
Welcome, Harry, to Diagon Alley.
As J.K. Rowling continued to build Harry's world, her own fell apart. She arrived in Edinburgh in 1993 after a brief time teaching English in Portugal. There, she'd been married, had a baby, and then left her husband. She had no job, virtually no money, and a tiny daughter to support.
That was the phase where the penniless single mother sort of tag to my name came along, which was true, but it wasn't enough that I was a penniless single mother. I had to write on napkins because I couldn't afford paper, and then we started straying into the realms of the ridiculous. Let's not exaggerate here. Let's not pretend I had to write on napkins, because I didn't. They started sort of adding little bits and pieces that just weren't necessary because the stark reality was bad enough.
Haven't been back here since 1994 when I moved out, and I don't like being back here, which is no offence to the place, but I've kind of avoided this place since I moved out, in just in deference to the fact that it was a pretty unhappy 6 months. I did a lot of writing here. I would say it's here that really the first book became a book, as opposed to 3 chapters and a collection of notes. So we're going to go in then? Off we go.
You couldn't really, objectively speaking, look around and say, well, you've made a success of your life. I was 28. I was living on benefit. I was living on about £70 a week. I had no work. And to suddenly be in a position where actually I couldn't support myself, because obviously anyone who's tried to get state childcare will know that you'll be very lucky to get the kind of childcare that means you can work even part-time. So it was all a real shock to the system.
Oh my God. This is so different. Oh my gosh. Oh wow, this is so different to how it was when I was here. This is nice. This is really nice. And I'm really glad. You just expect time to stand still when you've walked away from a place, and I should know better, but I have just been, every time I've come anywhere near this place or passed it in a bus or a taxi, I've imagined it exactly as it was when I lived here, and it's all been, I would be delighted to live here. This is great, actually. It's like an exorcism. Everything was just very, very, very dilapidated. And always filthy, which wasn't the flat's fault, it was normally my fault, because people very often say to me, how did you do it? How did you raise a baby and write a book? And the answer is, I didn't do housework for 4 years. I'm not super